This video is going to be all about how to replace the trims in your car with wood. Now we've got all the trim pieces and you would think it'd be a simple matter of just switching things over, but it's not going to be nearly as simple as that. This here is the central console. As you can see for this car, it's just got the one hole for the hazard light switch. Now we've got a refurbished new one of these down at the garage, so that will be nice and easy. First thing we're going to have to do is take off this rubber surround here and clip it on there. I don't imagine for 1 second that's going to be a major issue. You can see on this one here the tabs are broken, where I assume somebody didn't know how to take it off. On the wooden ones it's a slightly different fitting there. The next easiest thing to do, if there is such a thing, is to replace the front of the ashtray with wood. Now it is not at all obvious how that comes off and how this attaches on, so we'll be showing you how to do that. And last but not least is the problem of the aircon or climate control panel. On our particular car we have aircon, and this is what came with the car, but that does not look like the panel from an SL. Maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it just doesn't look like anything I've seen before. Plus, we don't have vacuum adjusted lights, and all of these switches, I imagine it's something to do with an alarm system, possibly, who knows. So what we've got is this panel here. What came off our parts car is this panel here. So at the very minimum, what we're going to have to do is take the two aircon knobs and put them on here and find some sliders. The sliders that came off this car are both broken, but it's not quite as simple as that, because these panels that you buy, this one came from Bentley Grills, they are designed to actually screw onto a backing plate like this. You can see these are the little nuts here. But this backing plate is not the correct backing plate for the car, because the knobs are not vertical, they're horizontal. And on the backing plate that came off the car, you can see it's a different kind of arrangement. There's not a big thick backing plate that you bolt into, so we're going to have to figure out how to get around that problem. Now, this rubber surround should just lift off. If you're careful, you can do this without ripping it. It should just click off like so, and that'll clean up and we'll be able to use that on the new car. Now this hole is just cut slightly too big. You can see that there's movement in this thing here, so what we're going to do is just put a little bit of electrical tape around there. Now to get this ashtray apart, the first thing we have to do is take off this top bit here. And on this side, you should be able to get a screwdriver just underneath there and just pop it up. And on this side, you should be able to pop that up. You've got to be quite careful because there are tabs in there. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. There's a tab just in there. And that's got to pop out this way towards the camera. Once you've popped those two things out, eventually with some wiggling about, what you should find is that this section comes free. Just bear in mind that there are wires on there, so don't pull it all the way out, otherwise you'll be in for some soldering. Now that should just clip out of there. That's just a light bulb. This is the light bulb out of the ashtray, and that is an unusual looking light bulb. I bet you'd struggle to find a light bulb like that again. Let's see if this one works. Amazingly enough, after 50 years, that light bulb still works. If you do ever need to get that light bulb in and out, it pushes in and twists. To get these wires off, you have to get this nut off, and if your nut is as rusty as this one here, it's a good idea to put some WD-40 on it. So don't rush this bit, just go backwards and forwards, keep putting penetrating fluid on. Obviously your nut might just come off in one go. Eventually, with a bit of patience, that nut will come off, and there is a little spring washer on there, here. And then that should just come off, allowing you to completely separate this. Now, obviously, what we'll do with this is just de-rust it and get the whole thing working. Ages to pry this inner bit up. It's been in there for I don't know how many years. We started off just with a chisel just to get it going, and then have just very slowly been wiggling it up with a screwdriver, and we've just about popped it free, but boy is that in there tight. We need to get that out so we can get the inside out and clean it properly and check that it's all still working. I think the cigarette lighter was snapped off inside here at some stage. Now eventually that's come out. You can see why it struggled to come out there, and it's just a little bit rusty. So we should now be able to take out the inside of this, hopefully. There we go. And this here is the inside that was being stuck in there for all these years. So I think we've still got the other bit of this in the car. I'm not quite sure how it goes together, but we'll clean that up and see if we can get this cigarette lighter working. Maybe have a cigar to celebrate. Just remember, this here is part of the cigarette lighter. I think there's a top part to that somewhere in the parts car. This fits inside, and that pokes through the bottom of this hole here. And then this fits inside there like so. It's kind of keyed, so it only fits in one way. And then you've got the washer and the nut on top of that. You could, if you wanted to go one stage further and try and get that washer off and take this whole tube here out, but that's a kind of one-way washer. It's easy to push on this way, but it's like a Chinese finger trap. When you try and get it out the other way, it's almost impossible. You invariably end up knackering that washer. So I'm not going to try and get that out. What I may do is see what happens when we put this in a rust bath. Just leave all of these little bits in a rust bath for a few days, get all of the rust off, paint the thing, put it back together. Same with this piece here. You could try getting in there with a little wire brush and getting rid of all of that rust, but I think I'll just see what happens if I put the whole thing in a rust bath. I think somewhere I've also got another one of these which is in better condition, although I can't find it at the moment. Let's just see what happens if we pop the whole thing in there. After being in the rust bath overnight, all the rust has come off that piece. We'll just paint that up, and lurking in the bottom here, you can see all the rust has come off that. Don't remember, when you put that in the rust bath, remember to take the light bulb out. It cleans all those connections up really well as well. So to get this front vinyl cover off here, you need to bend out these tabs. It's fine. A lot harder than it looks getting these little tabs up, and the way I usually do it is with a chisel. Now, once you've got the tab up a little bit, you can get something like a screwdriver on there to bend it up a little bit more. I believe this is both glued and held in place by those tabs, so what you need to do is get an old knife and just cut the glue, and then if you lever up, you should find that eventually, start at the bottom, okay, start at the bottom bit here and levering that away, because it's still held underneath this chrome bit, and you don't want to go bending that because you'll need it. Once again, work slowly and be patient. You'll eventually get those bottom tabs up. Actually, after wiggling around, you should be able to get that free without breaking it. I knew I had another one of those somewhere. This is the one that actually came with the project car. It's a walnut burr one. This green stuff is the Eastwood frame sealer that we managed to get on there. So let's just have a look at this one, because I think it's in much better condition. This is indeed in much better condition. It's actually a slightly different shape, so I don't know if anyone knows more about these cars than I do, but the ashtray that we've just stripped down has got a different shape here. Now, this has obviously got a wooden front on it, and in theory, the only thing holding that wooden front on is glue. So what we're going to try and do is carefully get a knife or chisel or screwdriver down here without bending the ashtray, and just see if we can separate that piece of wood. That should, in theory, just come off. It looks like it's just double-sided. I don't know. Yeah, it just looks like double-sided tape is holding this on. Look at that. Wow. So the only thing holding that on is this double-sided tape. Who would have thought it? That must be some seriously sticky double-sided tape to hold that on. So there's actually no adhesive here. I'll just go over this with a little wire wheel on a Dremel tool, get rid of any remnants of rust. What we'll do is just mask up this and put a tiny bit of black rust encapsulator on there, and that should be job done on this, and then we'll decide what glue to use to glue that Zebrano faceplate on there. I'm going to do something now that the purists will probably wonder what on earth I'm doing, but the glue I'm going to use on here is actually Trim Fix. I'm going to use spray adhesive for the simple reason that it works really well. Bearing in mind this was just held on by double-sided tape, and the worst that can happen is that I have to do it again. So here goes. Okay, we've let this glue go off for a little while just to get tacky. All we have to do now is very carefully wedge that under there without scraping the lacquer off, and then just press it firmly on there, and that should be job done. Now, as I say, I'm not recommending that you go along and use spray adhesive to do this job, because you know you are going to be pulling this potentially every time you open the ashtray. But that Trim Fix I've used in many different scenarios, and it has been absolutely excellent. So we're just going to put a little bit of weight on here, leave it overnight, and I think that'll be job done on the ashtray, and we can move on to the next piece, which is this here. If the only thing you were doing was replacing the faceplate, either because yours was cracked or something, and you were just replacing like for like, it would be dead simple. The way to do it is just to undo these 3 nuts on the back, bearing in mind there should be washers there as well, and this whole caboodle will come apart. If you've taken the nuts out, you would just unscrew these things here, like so, and these units would come off. This just pulls straight off like that, and once again this just screws off comme ça, and this whole piece will just, or should just, separate. What someone's done on this panel, don't ask me why, is they have sanded off the tabs both at the top and the bottom. What there should be is 2 tabs like this, here and here, and we're going to repair that one, and then 2 tabs up at the top, here and here, so this clicks in and screws down. I don't think we're going to be using this metal plate, but just in case you've never seen one of these, I'm just going to disassemble it so you can see what it's made up of. Obviously this here is very specific to a climate control panel that has 2 knobs at the bottom, and these little pieces here once again are very specific to this style of panel because they fit perfectly in there, comme ça. Similarly with this piece here, it fits exactly in there, like so. You couldn't use this, for example, in there. It's a different size. So there's 2 different styles, at least 2 different styles. There are probably many more styles of control panel. The other thing that's completely different is that these sliders here are actually set into the panel like this. I'll turn that around, they're set into the panel like that. If you were doing this job yourself and it was a like for like, all you'd do is you'd squeeze these little tabs together, pop out all the switches, come out front ways, swap the plates over, and that would be job done. Our situation is not quite as simple as that, because we're going to have to try and use this backing plate here and drill another hole here for the climate control, for the air conditioning unit. So we've got 1 hole already drilled up here for the fans. We're also going to have to potentially be, I don't know how we're going to do this, get a triangle in our piece of wood and also drill a little hole for this light bulb here. These little bits of, not glass, they're plastic, they just pop into a hole. So what we're going to have to do is drill exactly that right size hole into our new Zebrano plate here and pop that in. Now that's going to be really scary, because if you just get basically 1 chance to do that, and you don't want to be splintering the lacquer or splitting the wood or anything crazy like that. So if you are going to attempt something like that, sharp drill bits would be the way forward. Now, I think this vinyl is just glued on here. If you rush this and break this plastic backing plate, it'll kind of be game over because we don't have another one of them. And I imagine they're not that easy to get hold of in the exact shape that we need. So we may not be able to save this black vinyl. I don't think we need it anyway, but what you're going to have to do is cut along the glue line inside there. I don't know how well you can see that, because we need to keep this foam backing here. Eventually, after a little bit of patience, that is separate from the back plate. Pretty much finished attaching this to the plastic backing plate. The way we did it, these 3 holes here have to be absolutely millimeter perfect. So all we did was we just turned this over and drew round the Zebrano, and then clamped the wood to the plastic and drilled through the wood, and that seems to have worked. The last thing we've got to do is just to cut out this. This is just, I think it's just polyurethane glue or something, like an expanding glue, like Gorilla Glue, but we've just got to cut that out. And then what we'll do is we'll make up probably a little metal or plastic plate to go across there to replace that tab, and then that's that pretty much done. I don't even think we need any glue or anything like that to glue this plastic plate to here, which is good. I'm going to leave this video here. I've just loosely test fitted the glove box and these central panels here, because I am going to have to take them out again when I come to retrim the central console. Just to let you know, the central console on earlier cars I think is a different shape to later cars, because this panel here doesn't sit flush. This bit here is way too long, so I'm going to need to chop a bit off and move the peg up. If you look at the earlier SLs, this is much smaller than what you get on the later SLs. We also need to source a couple of these sliders in here. They were both broken on the parts car, unfortunately, and that often happens if you don't know how to get them out. So just remember, if you ever need to take this central panel out, either to fix something or to change your stereo, there are 2 hidden screws here and here, and you need to take out those trim pieces to get to them. Lastly, this is a call out for some help. I'm interested to know exactly what this air conditioning knob is supposed to do. The top knob is for the electrical fans, and I understand that, but this lower knob here actually is attached to a series of vacuum pipes, and when you turn it, I'm interested to know, are these vacuum actuators here supposed to move and open up these scuttle panels here? That's what I want to know. When you turn that knob there, what's supposed to happen? Are those things supposed to move up and down and move those flaps up and down? So if anyone's got a car with air conditioning like that and can give me any help, please drop a comment below, and I would be forever indebted.